Hey, do you want to learn what it takes to have your bird be really healthy? Well, today's video is for you then. Today I'm going to talk about everything you need to know about bird calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D3, and it could literally almost save your bird's life. It's such an important set of nutrients that we're going to talk about. So just a little bit about me. I'm Diane Burrows. I'm the founder and CEO of birdsupplies.com, which is a bird wellness company. We manufacture a range of birds nutritional supplements and educational products, as well as bird collars for birds that pluck their feathers out. But today I'm going to talk about, like I said, why calcium is so important for your bird's health. Now, the interesting thing that you need to know is that calcium is the most abundant mineral in the body. And so it is really kind of the basis, the foundation of a number of body systems that keep your bird's body working like a well-oiled machine. So for instance, calcium is really helpful in beak health, feather health, muscle tone and coordination, nerve impulses in the brain and throughout the body. It's also important for the neurological brain activity, as well as the keratin manufacturing. So the bird's beak and toenails and feathers are substantially made of a protein amino acid called keratin. And calcium helps to make that all come into play in your bird's body. So, from that explanation, I'm sure that you can realize that if a bird is low in calcium, it's really a bad thing. And some of the symptoms that you'll see that might clue you in that your bird is actually having a calcium deficiency or even a calcium hypoactivity, if you will. Too much calcium is just as bad as too little calcium, is that your bird would be experiencing, say, poor feather condition, muscle twitching, and things like wing flapping, the toe tapping that we see in birds that are very common. A bird that's falling off of its perch, things like that are going to be telltale signs that your bird is having low calcium levels. Now, I don't know if you know this, but there are most nutrients, as a matter of fact, work in synergy, if you will, with one another. So for instance, when we're talking calcium, calcium requires magnesium as well as vitamin D3 to be appropriately absorbed in the system. And so, other vitamins and nutrients have the same issue. This isn't something that's unique to calcium. But whenever you're looking at calcium deficiency with a bird, you also need to look at, okay, is the bird getting enough magnesium and is it getting enough vitamin D3? Now, I'll get into those two nutrients here in a minute. But without the magnesium and the vitamin D3, calcium is just going to kind of linger in the body. It's going to kind of get stuck in your bird's blood vessels, maybe even its liver and its brain, and calcify. You may have seen images in the past of calcified calcium. It gets very hard and brittle, and it lines the vessels, the blood vessels, and even around the heart and that sort of thing. And it can be just as deadly as too little calcium per se. So make sure that whenever you're feeding your bird a calcium supplement, if that's the route that you choose to go, that you choose a complete calcium product. So these mineral blocks that are basically calcium are not really sufficient. In fact, may do more harm than good. And some of the cheaper brands, if you will, of bird calcium that just have the calcium in them are probably not worth the money. You want to invest more into a complete bird calcium supplement that would have the calcium, the magnesium, and the vitamin D3. So, in terms of magnesium, magnesium is the second most abundant mineral in the body. And so it is also super important for a variety of bodily systematic functions. And it's very important that your bird gets adequate magnesium in its diet as well. Now you can get vitamin D and calcium, not vitamin D, but you can get calcium and magnesium in dietary methods as opposed to supplements with a rich range of nutritional, fresh, unprocessed, uncooked plant-based foods. Like I'm talking about feeding your bird like maybe 15 to 20 different varieties of vegetables, fruits, grains, herbs, that kind of thing each day. So, you know, and that's always the best. You know, just to be real honest with you, serving fresh foods is always the best because the bird's never going to overdose on nutrients because they're simply too much. If they get too much of a particular nutrient, it just is eliminated next time they go to the restroom. But in terms of magnesium, you know, supports all of the previous bodily functions that I talked about with calcium, you know, the beak and bone health, the nerve impulses, the muscle coordination, relaxing muscles is very important with the magnesium, as well as calming stress and calming the nerves is super important. And then magnesium has a lot to do with heart health because it's a calming, actually a calmatory mineral, whereas calcium is more of an excitatory mineral. So calcium is responsible for firing off those neurons in the brain, whereas magnesium is responsible for calming the brain down so that the brain can make use of the hormone or the neurotransmitter or what have you that has just been fired. So keep that in mind. That's how those two just complement each other so much in your bird's health. So again, calcium is known as one of the most important calming products that we have. And as a matter of fact, it's found in a lot of anti-anxiety medications and even some antidepressants for human beings. And I don't know if you know this, but you know, some of these medications can be, you know, worked down, titrated down, if you will, so that they're a small enough dose to be effective on birds. And so, you know, magnesium is really super important in that arena. In fact, magnesium can also be made into like a detoxifying, calming spray in the form of Epsom salts. And I've got a recipe for that on my website. But it's also something we're going to start making here fairly soon. Now, in terms of the role vitamin D plays, vitamin D is another product. These three products, calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D3, all work together to help your bird make use of the benefits of both calcium and magnesium. And so, you know, you can't really find too many bird-safe, bird-friendly products that contain vitamin D3. I mean, it's in liver and I think soybeans. But I don't know about you. I don't even eat liver, so my birds sure as heck aren't going to eat it. I don't think. I've never tried giving it to them, but it doesn't sound tasty. And then soybeans, you know, are just not really a good product to be feeding your bird, even though they're a healthy and kind of a super food, if you will. They tend to make our birds more hormonal. So you know, you're not going to want to deliver a bunch of soybeans to your bird and expect them to get the vitamin D3 they need, because then they'll become so hormonal that it's just counterproductive. So you want to use a supplement. Now, our supplement, which is the Unruffled RX Bird Calcium, Magnesium, and Vitamin D3, contains all of these in appropriate levels so that they work in synergy together to make sure that your bird stays happy and healthy and that its body systems are functioning together well. So this is a product, like I said, that you know, you can get too much calcium in your bloodstream just like you can get too little. And the effects of too much calcium in the bloodstream are going to be that it calcifies in your blood vessels, causing things like, and in your joints, and in your liver, and in your brain. Your bird has the same thing. And it's going to calcify and then just cause things to not function. And that can be just as, quite frankly, deadly as too little calcium. So you're going to want to follow the instructions on at least our jar. I don't know about other companies' products, but I do know that our jar, we're very careful about trying to educate people on how to use these products as effectively as possible. So our jar talks about using it just 3 times a week so that you don't over-toxify your bird, if you will, with any of these nutrients. And then it talks about specific dosages for small birds to medium birds to large birds. Now, another thing to know about is if you're, a lot of people we see, purchase like numerous different supplements from our company. And this product right here called Feathered Up, which is kind of our multivitamin bird feather growth formula, Feathered Up, hence the name, also contains calcium. So you wouldn't want to mix our calcium supplement with the Feathered Up supplement, because then your bird would probably get too much calcium, and we don't want those effects, to come down the pike for your bird. So let's talk about the symptoms of calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D3 deficiency. And they're really, I'll be honest, they're kind of disturbing. So at first you're going to see things like in the early phases or in a minor situation, you're going to see things like poor feather health, kind of a flaky looking beak. That's whereas the lack of calcium is going to the calcium that, if your bird's not getting enough calcium, the calcium's going to go to the most needed areas, and beak health and feather health are not critical in the short term. They're critical in the long term, of course. But that's how come feathers and beak health and skin health are kind of the first telltale signs that, hey, something's going on here with my bird's nutritional intake, and I need to pay attention. So if you notice that your bird's feathers are starting to get tattered, they're breaking off easily, that they're just dull and not looking good, that's a sign that, okay, I need to get to the bottom of this. Now, you could take your bird to the vet, and a lot of people will take their bird to the vet, and we recommend that you always take your bird to the vet whenever you notice a feather plucking problem. But on the flip side of that coin is that, vets want to get your bird in there so that they can get a good, baseline medical exam, physical exam, if you will. But on the other side of the coin, people don't want these hefty vet bills, and avian vet bills tend to be a lot higher because they have to use special labs to process the lab tests, and the vet has gone to like 6 more years worth of schooling just to get the avian certification. So avian vet treatment is a little bit more expensive. But if you notice that your bird's feather condition is looking pretty crummy, it might be worth it to spend the extra money for the lab tests that do actually look at the nutritional status of your bird. Basic lab tests are going to look at things like CBD lab tests, not CBD, excuse me, I live in Colorado, blood count. So now I lost my train of thought. So it's going to look at blood count, it's going to look at, liver function, major organ functioning, and different things like that. Whereas the tests for the nutritional deficiencies are a little bit over and above, and a different kind of test that your vet would give. But, feather health, getting back to the calcium symptoms, calcium deficiency symptoms, feather health, skin health, and beak health are going to be some of those first telltale warning signs that you would notice. And then as the disease progresses, the deficiency progresses, and it's gone on for longer periods of time, and it's getting worse, more body systems get affected. And so you're going to notice things with muscle coordination. The nerve impulses that tell the muscles to move in a particular way or another just aren't firing properly. Your bird isn't thinking clearly because the neurons in its brain aren't firing properly. So you're going to be noticing, differences in behavior, differences in coordination. Your bird may appear a little more clumsy and falling off its perch and that kind of thing. And then as the disorder gets even more severe or more long term, you're going to not only notice, just like quirky behavior changes or clumsiness, you're going to notice literally telltale your bird is just falling off the perch. It might not even be able to stand or walk properly, and it may be having seizures, that are telltale signs that the neurons are just very much misfiring and not working correctly at all. So seizure activity is a huge sign that your bird is having a very serious deficiency problem that you need to really get taken care of. Hopefully you would get it taken care of when it's much easier to treat at the early phases where the feathers are just looking kind of crummy and tattered and stuff, or where the bird's starting to get a little clumsy. But if you wait till the seizure, we're talking about a different level of problem and probably much more aggressive treatment being needed. So, one question I get asked is, okay, what's the difference between minerals and vitamins? So minerals, just to get a clearer understanding, actually come from organic substances. So think about us getting, or I have that wrong. Minerals actually come from earthy substances. So things like the soil. If you've ever seen pictures of those birds down in, I think it's Peru, the Tambata clay licks, you can just Google that, the Manu clay licks in Peru, and you'll see these really fascinating pictures of how birds, parrots, literally flock to these clay licks in that region of the world to get the essential calcium minerals that they need in order to sustain optimum health. Now, your bird doesn't have access to those level of clay licks, and even if you were to use, like I said, a cheap calcium block that didn't have the magnesium and the vitamins and the complementary minerals and nutrients that your bird needs, those aren't going to be as helpful as, say, feeding your bird a rich range of unprocessed plant-based foods, as well as trace mineral and mineral type supplements that support your bird's nutritional well-being. So minerals come from like the earth, soils and stuff, whereas vitamins actually come from plants, living plants and living animals. So that's where we get our vitamins, A, B, all the way to D, all the way to K. So that's the difference between minerals and vitamins. And that's why you need to, just really pay attention to the rich vegetation in your bird's diet, as well as some of these supplements that might be supportive to your bird's overall health. So, we really recommend our calcium supplement. We've done a lot of research to make sure that it is, just the most optimum levels of calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D3 that your bird need. So, go ahead and grab a bottle of that if you want. Now, in conclusion, feeding your bird the best diet possible is the greatest thing that you can do. Another great habit that you can get into is to do what I call daily spot checks to make sure, or to check on your bird's overall health and well-being each and every day. So every morning when I go down to my bird room to feed my birds, knowing that the first meal of the day is usually rich in a rich range of different vegetables and fruits and grains and herbs and that sort of stuff. I usually try to shoot for about 20 different varieties in their morning chop, if you will. And I have kind of a shortcut that helps me get through that in a timely manner so that I can make sure that they're getting the nutrients they need. But while I'm down there feeding them and kind of cleaning up and making sure their water's fresh and everything, I am also watching each and every one of them to make sure they're getting around okay. Are their feathers looking good? Are there feathers on the cage floor or blood droplets where they may have, fallen or injured themselves? Are they limping? Are they alert as usual and going through their normal routines, which are some of the whistling and the talking and, coming up to me and engaging with me, so I'm watching their behavior on each and every day and going through these kind of routine just checks around the room and their environment to make sure that everything's normal. I'm looking at their droppings to make sure those are normal. And all of that stuff comes together to keep my birds happy and healthy between the diet and the daily spot checks and, that the engagement and enrichment and all of that really helps keep my birds happy and healthy. So I hope this has been helpful. I've got a complimentary blog post on this on my website, and the name of this complimentary blog post is called What You Need to Know About Calcium, Magnesium, and Vitamin D That Can Save Your Bird's Life. Because appropriate calcium levels can literally save your bird's life. I'm sure that you've, maybe thought, oh my gosh, I didn't know how important it was. Well, now you know that it is super important to make sure that your bird gets appropriate calcium levels in its diet and its supplementations. So I've got that, and then I've also got, some different supports on my website, birdsupplies.com. Now, if you like this video and found it useful, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. So I've got, I don't know, some 60 odd YouTube videos now, and they're pretty, technical in terms, like today's was, in terms of, diving deep into this particular nutritional profile that your bird needs, or feather plucking, or behavior, or that sort of thing. But nevertheless, I try to make them as user-friendly as possible. So subscribe to my channel and check out, my rich range of videos. And when you subscribe, you can also, maybe get alerted, if you will, when new videos go up. So we would love to, have you be part of our flock. And so, with that said, I'm going to sign off now. And until next week's video, have a great week, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.